What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on What If Deku Was the Avatar Part 14. Keeping it real, Chief. Next part is gonna be the last part in this Avatar series. Now, I know. You guys might have backlash in the comment section. I understand this. But listen here, okay? Next episode would be 15 parts. 15 of them, okay? Let this be known that 15 parts is a lot of parts for a series. So yeah, I'll be ending it next week on Tuesday. Will probably be the last part. And I might do a spin-off story or two, depending on what y'all think in the comics about the idea. But let's shout out people who joined the Discord. Thank you, Nightlights, ZipB1, Dragon Slayer, What If LJ Vibes, Yeeter, 49, 75, 38, Hack the System, Lonely QT, MHA, Onshore Bull, 6590, Trex, T-Rex Arthur, Villain Deku, Unknown Emperor, FNAF Foxy. Thank you all for joining the Discord. Oh, and Wolfie. Thank you for joining the Discord. Now let's jump straight into this What If. Where we last left off, the final exams had just finished. Deku had gotten a pass on the situation. He was no longer really, well, he was no really longer tied to this world nearly as much as he was to the Avatar world. So he was preparing to head back already. But the issue is that Deku really wanted to head back, like a lot. He wanted to be gone. He didn't want to care about anyone else here. He wanted to go. He wanted to hit the gas pedal and go. But he couldn't. He was stopped by Aizawa. Aizawa finally got informed about Deku's little incursions, as Aizawa called it, onto a different world with people that Aizawa had no clue who they were. And he wasn't really excited about this, especially after asking Izuku when was the last time he talked to his mother. And Izuku said they talked over the phone about 2 months ago. So Aizawa told Izuku that he would be mandatory making it, that he would have to join the entire event that was known as the training camp this summer, forcefully, and that he should go talk with his mom and discuss stuff with her because she's probably worried. She hasn't heard or seen from him in about a month. Izuku sighed, knowing that his mom was generally quite like that, and decided to go talk with Izuku, or decided to go talk with Ino. God, my bad, guys. Had to burp. He went to talk with his mom. Izuku eventually showed up at his house. He hadn't been there in a while, so it was like stepping back into a familiar territory that was just slightly changed. Everything looked slightly different, almost like he could see the world throughout a new set of eyes, thanks to his travels and what he has endured over the time. After entering the room where his mom was, his mother instantaneously got up and hugged Izuku. "Oh, Izuku, it's been so long since I've seen you. You didn't call or chat for an entire month." Izuku apologized to his mom, feeling pretty bad about making her wait, and then eventually started discussing with his mom about what he was doing. He explained that he's been going to a separate world, a secondary world. This threw his mother off guard and was kind of confused. A secondary world? What do you mean? And then Izuku started to explain, well, you see, Mom, my quirk's not really a quirk. It's something known as bending. And you see, I bend using, well, bending, obviously. And I got my bending capabilities from a certain spirit. The spirit is called Rava. She's known as the spirit of goodness and light. Well, technically I get it from two spirits. At least I've recently learned I get it from two. The second one being known as Vatu, the spirit of darkness and hatred and evil. His mother was very confused about Deku's explanation, so Deku took it a step back and started explaining it again. Rava and Vatu have been fighting for a very long time. And currently, half of Rava's inside me when 100% of Vatu's inside me. Luckily, this does not make me evil, and quite the contrary, actually, really doesn't do much. But, so, I've been gone because of it. Not for any extreme reasons, mainly just because I can understand that I need to get a better grip on my power. And to get a better grip on my power, I need to go train. So I do training over in what is known as the Avatar world, or is what I call the Avatar world. See, the Avatar world makes it so that I can train there with other people that can also bend. They can bend biologically, just by base nature, so I train with them. It also helps me get better at my own personal training as well. It's not too quick, and training has been kind of harder recently, because rather than training with people who know the element I'm training with people who do not know the element I'm training with. What do you mean element? Well, you see, I can control 4 elements: earth, fire, water, and air. Those are the 4 main types. But then again, there's offsets of each main type, such as, for fire bending, you got combustion and lightning bending. And for bending types such as air, you got compression as well as sound. And for earth, you got metal and lava and sand as well. And then over on water, you got ice, blood, spirit, healing. God, there's a lot of bending types for water, Izuku said, sighing out of his mouth. Eventually, Inko and Izuku were getting caught up about everything that was going on in Izuku's life. Most of the things that Inko didn't expect was that Izuku was actually living quite peacefully back where he came from. There wasn't too many issues with it. He then started discussing about his other things that happened as well, such as him having a flying bison, as well as him owning something called a raccoon that flies, or a flying raccoon. Both of these kind of confused Inko a bit, but eventually Deku showed off his flying raccoon, as well as his other things, which kind of shocked Izuku even more. She really couldn't believe that Izuku had garnered all these animals. Then again, not too many people could believe that Izuku garnered all these animals. It was kind of shocking, keeping it 100% real. Eventually, Izuku started to talk with his mom more about some other things that, well, had happened to him. He talked to her about how he had recently fought against All Might and had, well, not defeated him, but more or less beated All Might, which confused his mom even more, And Izuku said, well, I didn't defeat him. See, my fight with All Might was a weird one because All Might was restrained. And the win conditions was either the students had to defeat the teacher or the students had to run away from the teacher. And you see, running away wasn't really hard. So that's the one we chose to do. Using bloodbending, it was quite simple to run away from, well, from the teacher himself. After me and Baku made it away, we got given 100% for actually winning. Because we understood our opponents, A, was way out of our league of combat, as well as B, we couldn't really mess with him. Literally, no matter what we chose, there was no way for us to beat him. So running away was just the safest and smartest option, for a lack of a better word. Eventually, Inko started to understand that what Izuku was saying, and understood that everything that he was saying made sense. It was all about that Izuku couldn't really defeat All Might, mainly because All Might was at such a higher level than him. So they beat All Might without beating All Might, which is a roundabout way of doing it, but hey, it makes sense. Eventually, Izuku started to prepare to go fight against people at the training camp. He knew that the training camp was going to be, well, pretty fun, as Aizawa put it. And what's fun to Aizawa could be utter torture to Izuku himself. So he really didn't think it was going to be the bestest of times, to put it lightly. Izuku eventually ended up finding that he couldn't really do much around the house. Most of the things his mother didn't even want him to do, because after hearing how Izuku basically never got no time to chill, she wanted to give him a time to chill at the house, which kind of defeated the entire purpose of Izuku coming there to give his mom time to chill. So eventually he decided to just give up. There wasn't much he could do around the house anyway. Most of his bending types really couldn't help too much with cleaning, other than ease of assistance, but that's about it. Izuku didn't know if ease of the assistance was the best way to use his bending. Eventually, time came when Izuku had to leave, so he wished his mother goodbye and began to walk out the door. After walking out, Izuku eventually made it to UA and found a bus. He hopped on the bus and began riding. Eventually, they all showed up towards the training camp, about a little bit off, but you could actually see the training camp and could see that it was a pretty nice and peaceful location. But suddenly the car stopped. There was still about a forest in between them, so Izuku expected there to be an issue. Eventually, his teacher ended up saying that there wasn't an issue, and that actually they were going to have to go run there from this point onwards. He meant the people that were going to be training him, even though Izuku knew that there wasn't much that they could train him in, but they were still going to be training him nonetheless. Izuku recognized them to be the Wild Pussycats, which Izuku was actually pretty excited about. They were well-known rescue heroes and thought it was exciting that they would going to be able to work with such greats as themselves. Eventually, they explained that there will be mud-like golems that they would have to make it past or destroyed to get through here. Izuku said, okay, that's easy. Now, the Wild Pussycats all figured that Izuku was joking. Obviously, there was no way that he would be able to just easily, defeat the golems, unless if he had a stupidly overpowered quirk. And then one of them remembered that he can use earthbending, or had an earth-related quirk, which kind of made them all understand slowly that Izuku kind of broke the rules of this challenge. Because thanks to his unique quirk being able to literally bend the elements, all their basic training practice with them fighting against elemental golems kinda didn't work very well. Izuku understood what they were thinking, and he was like, I can just choose not to use earthbending if that's stressing you out. And the Pussycats both looked at Izuku with kind of like, oh, you're approaching me look on the face. Making a student not use his quirk because his quirk is defined to be a better quirk in the situation is kind of absurd. So they decided to allow Izuku to still use his quirk. Izuku said, okay. He didn't really want to offend the cats that stood in front of him, but he understood where they were coming from. Having a student say that he can choose not to use his quirk just to make it a little bit harder on him and everyone else was kind of a blatant insult towards the cat's pride, which caused them mild anger and discontempt, to say the least. So eventually, Izuku ended up going down there. He saw that the golems themselves were actually pretty easy and wondered if he could recreate them using earthbending. He decided against it for now, but kept in the back pocket of his head just in case it ever came a time where he needed to create some giant creatures to help aid him in his battles, whatever battles he'd be fighting. Izuku actually found it kind of boring and was wondering what he would be able to experience. He's the Avatar, and from what he heard from Korra and them, is that the Avatar tends to have an important job of keeping the world entirely at peace, but Izuku seemed to not really have that much of a job doing that. Seeing how there was heroes already existing, the Avatar's purpose in this world was kind of lacking. There wasn't too many purpose, but Izuku really didn't care on the matter. As long as he was able to at least do something to assist people that he knew, he really didn't care if it required him to go against the world itself. He can bring balance and peace to the world just fine, without the need of being the Avatar. But being the Avatar, seeing how it's kind of his job to bring balance and peace to his world, felt very much so obliged. Eventually, Izuku started to fight against the weird creature golem style fiends. He started off by using simple compression bending, not really fire or water, because he felt like water would also be cheating, seeing how it has a natural affinity against earth as well as fire. So he decided to use just basic air bending, compression bending, to create compressed wind blades and start slicing off multiple sections of the creature's body. This gave him a very effective tool to use to fight against the golems themselves. The golems themselves weren't really too strong, obviously seemed to be dumbed down for the basic students to be able to beat without an issue. Izuku felt somewhat gratitude towards this and felt kind of insulted as well, because it just shows that they didn't believe that they could fight against the golems at max power, unless if the golems were the max power, which was always a thing that Izuku kept in the back of his head, knowing that maybe that was the max power that this hero could be able to produce. Eventually, Izuku prepared to attack against the golems, The rest of the class was keeping up, and most of the other classmates as well could relatively easily take out the golems themselves, showing that it wasn't just Izuku, but the entire class of Class 1A all seemed to be very well off in the use case of their quirks. Izuku felt happy about this because he knew he was at least decent controlling his quirk, but he hoped everyone else was also as well. Knowing that there could be an issue like benders crossing over from the spirit realm into the My Hero world caused an issue to stir inside Deku, wanting to know more about his bending so he can put a stop to that. He's now going to be taking on the final challenge, which is going to be energy bending. He's going to learn that final element soon. He doesn't know when exactly, but he knows it's going to be happening soon, thanks to his conversations with Ain and Korra. After learning energy bending, Izuku feels like he'll be able to finally just chill. Almost no one will be able to defeat him after he learns energy bending. And Izuku doesn't mean this in a spiteful manner, he means it in a serious one, because even benders themselves can't defeat someone that they can't really bend against, which tends to be a problem against most benders. So if Izuku really needed to, he can take away the bending of other people, as well as bestow bending upon other people, causing it to be a very, useful tool. Eventually, they all made it to the training camp, pretty happy about what's going on. Izuku sat down and began to start chilling. They all had made it there pretty earlier than what it was in canon, mainly thanks to Izuku's, capabilities on quickly being able to blitz through all the creatures, as well as assisting other people as well. Even though he didn't use any of his other bending types other than his just base one, he still was managing to get through relatively quickly, which allowed him to get through with marginal success. Eventually, Izuku came to the point where he could easily take out the opponents that they were facing. Soon, though, the training began. Izuku's training was different than anyone else's. Izuku asked why, and the Pussycat said, "Well, Izuku, your quirk is so versatile. Literally super versatile. There's literally nothing we can really help you to do with your quirk. It is just that versatile. So, instead of helping you learn how to manage your quirk and use it in a different way, we decided to help teach you how to work with multiple different things in your quirk. So, for example, you obviously can easily manipulate anything you want with your quirk. That's obvious enough. Basically almost anything." Izuku then corrected her, saying, "Ma'am, you gotta understand, my abilities I have to manipulate with my quirk is nothing more than just the result of my hard work. I originally couldn't manipulate whatever I want, and there was set limitations to what I could manipulate. But after training hard and breaking those limitations, I no longer have that imposed onto me anymore. Or, at least with most things. There's still some things that I really can't manipulate, or, as I call it, bend. But there's some things that I can, just fine." So you're saying your skill set increased over time? Yes. So when I first unlocked my quirk, I could only bend the basic 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, and air. Earth, fire, wind, and air. I just fucking repeated that one twice. Earth, fire, water, and air. But eventually, using earthbending a lot, which is the one I have the affinity towards, I learned to master bending sand by training on Dekaba Beach. Afterwards, I then mastered training metal bending, thanks to all the excess metal on Dekaba Beach. Then, after that, I mastered training lava bending. And then I moved on to different bending types from different areas. Because just learning everything from one bending element isn't really fun. Eventually, I started to master fire bending, and then I mastered air bending. And then, well, I mastered air bending. I'll put that one in quotation marks because I haven't technically mastered it yet. I should actually be facing my final trial for airbending relatively soon. I need to go back to my master and talk with him first. Your trial? Yes, airbending works with trials. So I need to go back to talking to my master to get the trial done. Huh. Okay, kid. Whatever you gotta do. Thank you. Izuku eventually started training solo. He meditated a lot, mainly to align himself better to make the energy portion easier. Eventually night came, and all the students decided to talk and chill. There were some students from Class 1B, but they really didn't upset the party that much. Eventually, Deku lay down in his bed and drifted off to sleep. And that's where I'm going to leave this part off. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. And until next time, goodbye.